earned his BA degree from Killan College. He was into internal medicine and medical oncology and pursued his additional training in end-of-life care and mind-body medicine. He is the director of Office of International Health Research in the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, popularly known as NACAM, at the US National Institute of Health, that is NIH. In that capacity, he is responsible for fostering international research collaborative studies, health interventions used in traditional or indigenous systems of medicines and healing, and he serves as a senior advisor to the leadership of NACAM. His 21-year career at NIH has centered on the design, implementation, and management of multidisciplinary clinical research programs for cancer, HIV/AIDS, and other infectious diseases, and on the ethics of clinical research. He has received multiple awards, including the NIH Merit Award, the NIH Directors Award, and the US Public Health Service Special Recognition Award, the PHS Superior Service Award, and the Senior Executive Service Meritorious Executive Rank. These are some of the greatest honors which one person can receive. Interacting with him since yesterday, we find him a transparent personality, having a crystal clear understanding of what he needs to do and the positive and negative aspects of complementary medicine. He tries to balance between both. I request Dr. John Killan to share his thoughts.
Good afternoon. I am really delighted to be here. This is my second trip to India and my first trip to Pune, and I can't begin to describe the gracious hospitality and the wonderful reception that I've received already, and I want to thank everybody for that. When I was asked to talk on this symposium, I thought at first, I'm not sure that I know anything, I'm not sure what business I have being up here on the stage, but as I thought about it a little bit more, I realized that my experience in research ethics and especially the ethics of international, multinational research might have some useful insight into ways of looking at this matter of intellectual property. So this may be a little off the course, but I think it does have some information that's useful in thinking about the challenges of defining what are the benefits that derive from clinical research. So what I want to do is talk very quickly about the issue of exploitation in clinical research in general and what ethics has to say about that. I want to then take a look, and this is probably the most important piece of what I want to talk about, at trying to get a complete understanding or a more complete understanding of the full range of potential benefits of research. Because as has already been described, there's been a lot of focus on a few hot button issues. But there is a much bigger range of potential benefits. And then we'll take a quick glance at a framework for looking at some of these things related to intellectual property from the perspective of research ethics. I think the beginning position or point that I want to make, and this is, I hope clear to everybody, is that evidence-based medical practice is a fact of modern global life. It's absolutely critical to the widespread acceptance of any medical intervention, regardless of where it comes from. That we need to be very clear about the fact that it is not necessary to sacrifice one's beliefs in order to engage in research that looks for objective evidence to support or refute those beliefs. So I think what I'm really trying to say here is that research and science are not at all incompatible with traditional medicine and traditional research. Exploitation is an endemic problem in all of clinical research, concerns about exploitation, simply because the goal of clinical research is to create new knowledge that will have general benefit to the public health and the state of healthcare. Participants who take part in clinical research studies are a necessary means to gain that knowledge. So they are vulnerable to exploitation, which in this context means being used against their will or best interest for the benefit of others. Protecting individuals who participate in clinical research is essential, is at the heart of many codes and regulations relating to research ethics. This slide lists just a few of them: the Declaration of Helsinki, the CIOMS guidelines. There are national codes and national regulations. There's much that's been written about this aspect and issue of exploitation in the ethical literature. The ethical literature has paid a lot less attention to the matter of exploitation of countries or cultures, and this is where I think the intersection with traditional knowledge comes directly to the fore. Certainly there have been innumerable examples of real exploitation of cultures or countries by science, and I I think all of us who come to the field of traditional medicine research need to be straightforward and honest about that, and sort of confess, if you will, that there have been some abuses. This can take the form of at least two different kinds of exploitation. One is using a poor or vulnerable population to study a conventional medicine. Can also, relevant to the symposium today, relate to the extraction or taking away of indigenous or traditional knowledge for benefit elsewhere, meaning that one population, for example, should not be used for the benefit of another population, that the burdens and benefits of research should be shared and distributed fairly when we're talking across countries, across cultures, across borders. I think it's also important in this context that we take a hard look at the full range and all of the benefits and burdens if we're really going to do a fair accounting of looking at the distribution of benefits and burdens. There are a number of challenges in honoring this principle when we're talking about different, thank you very much, when we're talking about research in a cross-cultural, multinational setting. Probably the most important point that I want to make is the first bullet, and that is that under all circumstances, the likelihood of tangible returns from research is uncertain, and statistically speaking is unlikely. So most clinical research which is undertaken does not lead to a product that produces a profit. There are a number of other issues that are related to traditional medicine research specifically that complicate the matter of weighing benefits, and those include the fact that research in this field is necessarily complex by nature of the interventions that are used, by nature of the derivation of the knowledge, It is not easy. It's one of the major challenges which personally attracted me to this field, but it complicates doing research, and it complicates the likelihood that tangible benefits will come at the end of research. So I would suggest that it's the most likely benefits of research, in fact, are not tangible. They're not financial. They're not profit. They're not money. They are likely to come in very different forms. Most important of all is that the knowledge gained from research is the biggest benefit that we gather from it. And this includes negative studies, if you will. We often talk about a clinical trial being positive if it produces the result that we want to see, and negative if it doesn't produce that result. But we can learn as much or more from a negative, quote, negative study as we can from a positive study. Another type of benefit that derives from research is long-term scientific collaborations that can take an initial project but go in different directions. And the learning and the partnership and the multidisciplinarity that happens as a result of research collaborations is a really key non-tangible benefit. In the case of multinational research, there's all kinds of development of research capacity. Here I'm referring to technology transfer in the broadest sense of the word, so that there's perhaps the passing on of high technology to a country or a location or an institution where it doesn't exist. In the context of research on traditional medicine, there is the passing of traditional knowledge and technology to the high-tech science. When we're looking at clinical trials often provide a venue for better health care for trial participants. The last thing on this list is products that ultimately make it to the market and that are sources of financial gain for the researchers and the developers. And it's last on the list intentionally because, as the title of this slide suggests, the most likely benefits of research are not tangible benefits. So I would suggest that it would be very useful to think about a framework for defining benefit that is a little bit more comprehensive than we're often used to thinking about it. Several of us at the NIH have done a lot of work in developing a comprehensive framework for looking at research ethics. This has been published in a very important paper in the Journal of the American Medical Association. I don't have time to nearly begin to describe it to you, but the idea is very simple. That in looking at any particular research project, there's a series of steps that one goes through to determine whether or not the research is ethical. If the research doesn't have potential value, it's not ethical and should not go forward, and there's no point in looking at anything else in any more depth than that. If the proposed research doesn't have scientific validity, then it's not ethical to do, and there's no reason to go further in your thinking about the ethics. This is the idea of this framework of research ethics, which was published by Zeke Emanuel and other colleagues of mine at the National Institutes of Health. When we were working on multinational research, we began with that framework and developed a somewhat more elaborate, but not very much more elaborate framework for thinking about some of the special problems that arise in multinational research. And it's in this framework that I think that there are some insights into ways of thinking about intellectual property and benefits and so forth that are broader, especially the benefits of research that are broader and more systematic. We defined 8 principles or requirements for clinical research, and within those requirements, a series of what we call benchmarks or sort of gauges for assessing whether or not the requirement has been met. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all of these for you because it would be deadly. But I want to just point to a couple of examples. The first requirement that we talk about in multinational research is a requirement that there be a true collaborative partnership between all of the relevant stakeholders involved in this. That too often in the past, research has been one way, helicopter research, briefcase research, you parachute in, take the information away and go. That ethical multinational research really does need to be a collaborative partnership in which all of the stakeholders are represented, they have responsibility for all aspects of the study, the cultures and values and traditions of the location where research is carried out are respected. Particularly important here is that capacity development occurs, that both parties benefit in a significant way from the development of new knowledge and understanding. And in this case, that there are plans for sharing rewards, tangible rewards, in a fair and just way. When we look at the requirement for social value, there are a few of the benchmarks which we thought, I think, are particularly germane to thinking about a framework for assessing benefit in research. That all of the potential beneficiaries should be well defined, that there should be a problem, that the problem under study is important to the population, and particularly here that the potential value of the research is maximized by things such as attempting to aim toward products which can be used by by everybody, all of the populations engaged in the scientific project, and especially that the potential value is maximized by trying to embed research in longer-term scientific collaborations that have bigger goals than simply the research project that's under study. I won't go on. I think there is, just because of time, I'm not going to be able to go through the entire framework, but you can see the black areas here are particular areas of requirement in this framework that deal with matters of looking at the benefit of research in a systematic way. I do want to highlight one important point on this slide in the 6th requirement, which is a requirement for independent review. One of the benchmarks that we talked about is the research should be transparent to public scrutiny. That means it should not be kept secret as is going on, that the public that's involved in it should be invested in it. I think this is particularly important in dealing with problems that relate to the appearance of exploitation, if not real exploitation. So I think I'll stop at this point and simply say that try to sum up what I've tried to cover, that concerns about exploitation, both individual and cultural or community, are pervasive in clinical research. Concerns about cultural exploitation of indigenous or traditional knowledge are at the crux of most intellectual property disputes regarding traditional medicine research. That excessive focus on securing tangible benefits can prevent other benefits that it can prevent research from happening that will result in benefits which are much more likely than the tangible benefits, and that a comprehensive accounting of the full range of benefits is necessary, informative, and possible. So I thank you again for the opportunity to participate in this event. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to learn and talk with people and be here and hopefully build some research collaborations. Thank you.